Ça marche. Donc, bonsoir à tous et à toutes. Alors, je suis Sandrine Vohra, je suis la cofondatrice et CEO de Mikado International, qui est une agence de communication spécialisée en marketing ethnique et dans le ciblage de communautés visant sur la diversité. Donc, en fait, on aide les entreprises à identifier et à accroître leur marché en identifiant et en prenant compte de la diversité culturelle. Notre pitch, c'est vous avez un certain budget marketing que vous ciblez en segmentant par rapport à l'âge, au sexe ou d'autres critères, mais souvent la race ou l'ethnicité sont prises en compte que quand c'est un produit en particulier, si c'est des nachos ou des Doritos, mais pas tous les produits et services. Et donc, c'est là qu'on intervient, on dit, mais non, tous les services et produits ont une audience ethnique ou multiculturelle. Et donc, voilà. Donc, dans les 10 dernières années, on a travaillé avec des marques de produits de consommation comme Maille, Lipton, Knorr, Dove, avec des banques, des services financiers comme PayPal, eBay, des cable operators comme Comcast, Dish, Sling. Mais bon, comme je disais, il n'y a pas d'industrie ou de produits ou de services spécifiques pour le marketing ethnique. Donc voilà, et donc du fait que les flux d'immigration ont continué à évoluer dans les 10 dernières années, Mikado en fait peut maintenant utiliser tout ce qu'on a acquis aux États-Unis, on peut l'utiliser sur d'autres marchés divers comme le Canada ou l'Europe, comme en Allemagne, en France ou en Angleterre. Donc du coup, nous venons d'ouvrir nos bureaux au Canada et en Europe. Juste avant le Covid, perfect timing, mais bon, on est positif et ça va bien se passer. Donc, avant d'en arriver là, j'ai travaillé pour des boîtes multinationales aux États-Unis. J'ai travaillé pour Dish, pour Merrill Lynch, j'ai travaillé en Allemagne, pour Essilor, j'ai travaillé pour un groupe de médias indiens en Inde et j'ai fait mon MBA aux États-Unis. Et j'ai fait l'ESSEC en France et avant, j'étais née. Donc voilà, j'ai fait tout le background. Et donc voilà, c'est Sandrine. Et puis on peut parler. Donc aujourd'hui, on allait. Je suis passée peut-être en anglais, je ne sais pas. Mais on m'a demandé de parler sur les stratégies que les entreprises ont en interne et en externe pour un peu naviguer cette pandémie. Et donc, moi, ce que je voulais dire, c'est qu'on peut faire ça un peu open floor, où tout le monde partage un peu ce qui se passe dans leur boîte ou leurs expériences, parce que, bon, moi, je comprends très bien ce qui se passe dans les Fortune 500 qui sont mes clients. Je comprends ce qu'on a fait chez Mikado, mais bon, toutes les expériences sont bienvenues à la discussion. Like I was saying, I want to open the discussion on how we all tried to navigate through the disruptions in these past months. And whatever position or whatever company we're in, we've observed from our employers, employees, market, vendors, customers, and learned from that. So there are obviously some internal adjustments that had to be done in terms of the way of working and the expectations, as well as externally, not only with the customers, but also your audiences, your target audiences, and your consumers. So one sure thing is that these were completely unforeseen and unprepared disruptions. Nobody obviously could predict this. These were large scale and impacted everyone around us, the workforce, our customers, the suppliers, competitors. And for once, everybody in the world was on hold. It was really worldwide. There was nobody really was spared from this. These disruptions were very rapidly spread. Within weeks, the whole world was on hold. And unfortunately, and I don't know what you guys think, but what I've been reading is that these disruptions will be long-term. I was reading that people are forecasting coming back to the same level of economy not before April 2022. So it gives us a lot of time to try to understand what's happening and recuperate. The other thing is that now we have to apply new protocols that require external coordination. So I know especially restaurants or retailers, for instance, with the public government, you have to make sure that everything's in sync with law enforcement, with health officials, to make sure that our products, services, and workforce align with all these requirements. And lastly, we have to make sure, or we have to understand, that we cannot rely on infrastructures anymore. People cannot come to office buildings anymore. Public transportation were not working. I know for our clients, our distributors were not able to get the raw materials. So everything was really on hold. So now that organizations have new sets of rules for anything that they have to do, companies, I think, have to make sure that whatever and however they decide to move forward, they make sure they stay flexible, they communicate, and they communicate in a humanized manner, internally and externally. And I think that's key. It's the communication, because again, everybody's touched by this and everybody's uncertain. So let's keep a people first mindset where we understand and we're empathetic towards what employees are going through. So I wanted to show you this. So this was a survey done on like what's going on with respondents, but what we see is that people are really worried about the safety of their health, the safety of their jobs, which create anxiety and depression. And I love the pyramid of Maslow. So, you know, I think most of us in developed countries are usually at like level 3, level 4 of the pyramid, where we care more about our psychological needs and all that. But now we are really going back to the bottom, where our basic needs have to be taken care of, because through this pandemic, we are starting to worry about health, food, and safety. And us leaders, our companies, our managers, colleagues, we have to make sure that we are empathetic and we reassure people and understand what's going on. So I'm sure you guys have examples on what's going on around you guys. Starbucks, for instance, has implemented something they call the catastrophe pay, which gives their employees a full month of pay, regardless of if they come to work or not, so that they don't feel stressed, they don't feel like they have to go through public transportation to come, etc., and like be in danger. So those types of initiatives are needed. There's also a whole aspect of investment and technologies and infrastructure that comes through, because now companies like right away started offering flexibility to work remotely. I'm sure mid-March, we had asked our employees to stay at home even before the state orders. We made sure that we delivered everybody's screen, chair, you know, whatever their workstation was, to their home. We did the same with us, thankfully, because chairs are very uncomfortable otherwise, sitting there on the whole day. But again, a lot of companies were very empathetic in the way they tried to understand what was going through their employees' minds. So I think Facebook started offering paid childcare, where they started sending people to take care of employees' kids, etc., because that was a pain point. So really try to, and I think like what Jean-Yves was saying, I think your company is really doing that, even if it's with the Black Lives Matters right now, where they're really trying to understand what's going on through the company's mind, and to apply with that. And in that sense, and I don't know if you guys agree, but I think there's a reinvention of authority that has happened. What I mean is that in general, you usually have like, oh, this is the client and this is the agency, and you know, they give direction, or I'm the doctor, you're the nurse. There is a hierarchy, which right now is completely kaput, I feel, because I know our clients come to us and they're like, we don't know what's going on. We don't know. You guys tell us. And everybody is at the same level, brainstorming or trying to figure out what's going on. Same thing in hospitals between doctors and nurses, with teachers and parents trying to figure out, you know, how to educate their children. So I think even your company asking you guys what's the sentiment, what are the ideas, and then kind of putting it together and, you know, applying it. I don't know if you feel that, but I feel there's like a crash of the authority, which is not a bad thing.
There's a lot of innovation for sure in what we've been seeing. So for COVID, for instance, within a few weeks, we were asked to fill out a survey and asking us how we were feeling, you know, mentally, how we were feeling also physically. And then back to what, you know, you said, it was a little bit of a shift, right? Because it's always been customers first, and then, you know, customers, business, and then employees. And that it's the realization that if you don't have any employees, if your employees are sick, then the business isn't going anywhere really, because the employees are also what makes the force of an organization, and we're an agency as well. So, so there was a big realization of this, big realization to, I think what you were showing earlier with the hierarchy of Maslow's needs, we needed health. And this was last week, and safety. And then we got that within the confines of our home, and being able to be able to work, having whatever we needed to work. And I think that with the events of this week or last week with Black Lives Matter and others, we're just really looking again at that safety. And then once again, the company is actually getting a check on us to just make sure we're doing okay, providing us plenty of resources from places where we can find resources, information, books, but also employee lines, right, for mental assistance if we need it. So there is a lot of care that I'm seeing with all of these events kind of like converging right now, where everyone's realizing that it is important. And if your employees are doing well, then we're in a position ourselves to be able to advise clients better, because we're in a better mindset. So I think that this is what's been happening for us, and we can be thought leaders, and we are thought leaders, and we're coming up with solutions for clients, things that they hadn't thought about, because we ourselves are in that era where we're still L1 and L2 is fine, and we're sort of at the third level right now, you know, kind of like rebuilding.
Yeah, because you feel the safety and you're not threatened in any way. I agree. Are they doing anything externally too? Or is it mainly like, is there any communication on Black Lives Matter externally?
Yeah, enormously, enormously with our clients, and you know, we've taken obviously the lead from a communication standpoint, and then in the latest newsletter that I've sent, there is still, you know, Black Lives Matter. That's, you know,
Yes, it's trending.
showing the examples of what other companies have done, and you know what we've helped them also achieve, right?
Yeah.
And for Black Lives Matter. And then what's very interesting is whereas this is something that started from a US standpoint, all of a sudden it's getting to be
It's global.
worldwide.
Yeah.
And same thing with, you know, COVID, which started probably in China, and all of a sudden is a worldwide event.
Yes, I think again, like it's, we're all connected in this. Like there is a really, like I call it a crash, but like everybody's at the same level, be it regarding this virus, be it within an organization, be, you know, like I know Mercer, that's in Denver, they send, again, a lot of surveys to their employees on everything. How do we deal with clients? Should we go back to offices or not? And these are the options. What do you guys think? So I think it's great that everybody's involved. And I know I can see that it's not only internal, because I see how our clients are having more regular meetings with us to involve us and get our point of view on everything that they have to do in terms of next steps.
So I have two questions. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, down to our organization has actually provided everyone with like a corporate, a free subscription to Headspace.
Ah, oui. Oh yeah.
Right, to really feel, you know, in tune with yourself and, you know, with, you know, dealing with the stress, because like you said, it's also work related, it's also family related. You know, you're here and you have your entire family with you, right? You got to help the kids do school, you got to be you know, so there was already a lot of pressure with what was going on, and it seems that every week's coming with its additional week of pressure.
Yeah.
What's the name of the app, Jean-Yves?
Headspace.
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 That's a good idea. I'm going to do that for my employees. Thank you very much.
No, it was really good, you know, calming and you know, figuring out how you can feel better and more at ease and more relaxed, you know, regardless of what happens. And by the way, Headspace, for anyone who is unemployed, is providing a free subscription to Headspace.
Yeah, which is amazing. It's a good app.
Well, I have a question for both of you, Jean-Yves and Sandrine. First one, your business directly. We always hear that the marketing budgets and advertising budgets are the first one to be cut from companies. And when we hear you, I don't have the feeling that you're doing so bad right now or that you're struggling so much. So I'm just wondering, what is exactly the situation for you? Is it very hard? Are your clients cutting all their budgets for you, or what's the situation like?
You're asking me?
Both of you, you and Jean-Yves?
Je commence. So for us, I'm glad my smile hides it all. No. For us, definitely the budgets have been cut, but not as much as people would think. I don't know if marketing and sales were the first budgets to be cut, but they were definitely budget cuts. I think more than cuts is people are going, I don't know how to say it in English, very slowly. And it's like on tâte. And
fluid.
What is it?
It's very fluid.
Yeah, it's because so I'll give an example. We get budgets for the year, and we get them like the year before in Q3, usually in Q3. And we know what the budgets are for the year, the campaigns are laid out, and you just run with it. And right now it was in March, it was like, hold on, stop everything. Then a few weeks later, it's like, okay, we need to be in market because people are still consuming like crazy. So then the next step was, okay, let's do something, but not too much because we don't know what's gonna work or not. So just take 5% of the budget and do something amazing online. And now it's like, oh, we're in June. I mean, things are restarting. Let's do something amazing, but let's keep it online. So it's been like stop and go, stop and go. It's been very interesting, but I think, especially because I have a lot of CPG clients, they haven't really seen, they've actually seen growth. So our marketing budgets in that sense have not been cut. And again, because we're in multicultural and ethnic, they are not necessarily the audiences that got touched first. They have pretty good income cushions. If we talk about Asian Americans or Arab Americans, you know, they're well-to-do. So in that, it's been going well. If we look at finance, our finance clients, yes, there's been a shift in the way they do things, physical locations, and a lot of like, you know, they're going on to online banking. So for us, it was shifting the marketing budget and money towards new tactics. And then services like Dish or Comcast and Sling were our clients. Again, that's been skyrocketing. So we've been lucky to be working in those industries, but yes, it's not hit us as hard as other industry could have, like hospitality or restaurants.
Yeah, we've seen the exact same things. Our CPG clients are, you know, through the roof, to the point that some of them are saying, well, we don't need to advertise, right? I mean, do you need to advertise if your product is Lysol or Clorox right now? No, I mean, the things comes to the store, it flies off the shelf. There are plenty of places that were, for instance, you know, retail stores that, you know, operate within malls, but for as long as the malls are closed and, you know, you don't have as many people coming in and out, it's definitely affecting their business. And therefore, if it affects sales, it's affecting marketing. Now, that said, we've seen that in previous crises that were just, I was going to say financial crises, where all of a sudden, the ones that were not marketing were falling way behind that the ones that had kept their marketing communications throughout, and being able to really come out of it a whole lot better for those that actually stayed in market and in business. And it just feels like we have to repeat ourselves all over again, and we got to be telling people how, you know, the previous crises have gone. This one is really a whole lot different, where some organizations are doing really well, other organizations are doing, you know, really poorly. So you were talking about hospitality, and restaurants would be one of them. Most of the restaurants have been hit drastically, but actually, you know, companies like Popeyes are up like 30%, you know, companies like Wingstop are up 20%, right, in sales. And that's because the model was already there in order to serve the customer, because it's drive-through, because delivery was already in place. So these have actually taken some of the business from the other places. Grocery stores have taken over. They're up 20, 30% because they've taken over the business of restaurants, you know, for consumers that are now going to be, you know, doing, you know, making their own dinner and making their own lunch. And then all of a sudden, certain restaurants also are going to be catering to entire families that are at home at lunch, where in the past they would have seen one person, right? One parent, for instance. So I think it really depends. And because some businesses have seen a whole lot more money, you know, QSR restaurants, grocery stores, CPGs, these have some money to spend.
Yeah.
And then the, you know, some companies like apparel, shoes, anything that's in a mall has been decreasing. Communications has been through the roof, right? People want to communicate, and electronics was up for a nice while this was building. It's kind of like papered, you know, the Best Buys and everything else. But you have to also look at that in the line of sight that some of the stores are reopening, and now they're actually coming back online, you know, gradually. They can't have as many people, but then we'll adjust, right? You know, I just had a haircut yesterday, right? That had been 4 months.
But how many of us have gone to a product store since it's reopened? Have you guys? You still continue buying it online, no?
Yeah.
Unless it's a service.
Hardware store, Lowe's, like, you know, types of things, Home Depot. I think that this is where people spent most of their time, right? So these stores were still considered essential too.
Yeah.
And so they stayed open during that entire crisis.
I was reading.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
We have a comment from Jan. Jan, his mic does not work, but Jan is one of the board members here at the French American Chamber for the Rocky Mountain chapter. And he works for Similasan, which is a pharmaceutical company. And one of the products that they do is eye drops. And he is telling us that his allergy products are only minus 4% last month, whereas competition is down somewhere between 20 and 40%. And so his advice is to take advantage of your competition, cutting if your sales channel is open.
Yeah. And you're right, right. So I think we've all seen it, for instance, in terms of communication. There's been nothing, hardly anything in the mail, right? Whereas usually you would get your 3 to 4 catalogs a week or something, nothing. And so the one that comes, it's finally the Messiah coming into your box, right? And then you have to open it and go from page to page because now you have the time to actually do it.
You have nothing else to do. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Now I think that from so this is kind of like the work from an agency standpoint for you and I. One of the things, Sandrine, that I'd like you to talk about, you mentioned some of the group from an ethnic standpoint, have been faring well. Now, a lot of the groups that have not been faring well are actually, Black people and people that were also in the service industry that don't tend to actually be like a wealthy Asian, for instance, but it could also be Hispanic population and Black population as well, who are then notched down, to that physiological type of need there. What's been your experience with very specific ethnic groups?
So yes, it's good you're bringing it up. So if we look at Chinese restaurants, so before COVID, the number of Chinese restaurants in the US is more than McDonald's, Wendy's, and Domino's Pizzas retails combined. There are like over 40,000 Chinese restaurants. And right now, more than half have closed because we all know why. And that's one ethnicity that's really been an industry that's really been hit, is the Chinese restaurants. Same thing with as we know, a lot of the nail salons are Vietnamese, usually owned or operated. So the same thing is happening where people usually live paycheck to paycheck, and not being able to work and go in and open that that business has hit them, where again they're going in, into under poverty line if they were not already. So those are some of the ethnicities that we work with. We don't have so much work with African Americans and Latin Americans, so I don't have specific examples, but I know in terms of the Asian community, those are two that have been hit because of the service industry. Same thing with Brazilians, especially in Boston, Florida, California. They usually are in the cleaning services of home cleaning, and people stopped asking cleaners to come, be it in commercial or in individual homes, like offices or homes. So that's another ethnicity that got really, really touched by not being able to get a paycheck at the end of the month. So yes, we are definitely not only the lucky ones, but very lucky ones in terms of company, in terms of work that we do, and just as individuals.
To follow up on this topic, because I think it's right where the subject was today. I remember from our last webinar that Julien Renaud, one of the other board members, explained us how the French community helped him go through the crisis and reinvent himself to succeed. So how can a company like Mikado help communities or help businesses go better through the crisis?
So absolutely, I think everybody has been reinventing themselves. And Julien's is a great example of a small business that's been fluid enough to listen and apply without being stuck to obstacles, because a lot of big companies, sometimes we think it's easier to do, and I think I'm not sure if I put it, but so like Heinz and even like Pepsi have copied Julien and they've gone straight to do B2C, where, you know, Heinz now you can order and deliver, you can get your sauces delivered at your place, at our places. Same thing with Pepsi, you can go on snacks.com and choose what snacks you want and they deliver it for free at your doorstep and there's no middle person. So as Mikado as well, in terms of how to help small businesses or ethnic businesses, where we come in, I think partnership is one thing. We work with big brands and you know, showing them partnerships that can lift other people, not try to cut the middle person or try to navigate through that. And a lot of our clients have CPG products and stores are closed. Distributors are not distributing the product. So it's really reinventing yourself. But again, the core is understanding your customer and your business. Mikado is doing the same thing. A lot of our marketing budgets are spent on events and launch events and promotion in stores, etc. And right now, not being able to do that, we have to like make sure that we are an expert in whatever is happening online and digitally, which is maybe not our forte or our core, but now we had to hire in that sense so that we can, you know, get to the needs of our clients. So I don't know if that answers your question. But,
I think there's been a few things too, you know, as not only as agencies but also as overall companies have done their part. And if you think about you know, companies like Chipotle, for instance, is allowing you when you're actually placing your order to also make a donation to I cannot remember exactly which organization that was, but it's an organization that will, you know, fund, you know, some fees, for instance, that Black people that are being arrested, for instance, you know, are going to be able to funnel through their, you know, to get an attorney or to, you know, get bail money or, you know, so you can actually see that even from the brands and then from the agency as well. This is one of the things that we've noted, you know, in one of our newsletters is, so last week, as it was, or 2 weeks ago, as it was fresher in everyone's mind, we've started to see the response of a lot of the brands in terms of outrage once, and then in terms of making sure people know that we stand for Black people, and stand for the community, to all of a sudden shifting to, and by the way, here's how we are actually helping. So some of them is, here's how we're hiring, here's how we're working with the community. For other people, it was like, hey, we're going to be donating $1 million out of our own money, versus others were more like, well, we're going to be helping fundraise to actually just make these things go better, right? And provide money and assistance where that's needed. So when we think also about the rest of our business, like not-for-profit is one that is still working, right? Within all of this, you think with 40 million people unemployed this week that would actually just really go down. You still have, you know, organizations that need to be in front of, you know, donors, in front of their consumers, in front of the ones that are still spending, to actually say, hey, we're doing something also from a societal standpoint, you know, and also not just from a societal standpoint, but also for COVID, we're also doing things like, if you think about Furniture Row, for instance, stopping their business, stopping, you know, and not making mattresses anymore, and all of a sudden making masks, right?
Yeah.
The fabric to actually do it. So
yeah, I completely agree.
Shift, that's like a social shift and a social conscience in what the organizations are currently doing right now, which is worth being in front of the customer with that message, right? And
yeah, the way it's communicated is key, because to your point, at the beginning, companies were not saying anything and everything's put on hold, but that's not enough, because right now consumers are craving honest conversations and the audiences. So it's not like, oh, I'm stopping everything I had on social media and I'm not going to say anything. We want to know what's actually you're thinking and what actually you're going to do and who do you stand for. And that's why the authenticity of the company and their values, especially, I'm sure everybody has seen that, but I think in the past 2 or 3 months, the values of a company has been come like and put at the forefront of anything that they're doing. In terms of marketing budgets, people have not, or some have stopped their TV spots, but the companies that we remember are the ones who did not stop the TVC budgets, but they now have a community message that's going on TV, you know, instead of their brand ads. And okay, some people did some faux pas too. I had some horrible examples, especially the first one where people have used really hard, dark humor because at some point, you know, some people are not thinking. So it's interesting because even when we got our brand guidelines or communication guidelines from our clients, it's very detailed, it's to the core, and you have to react very quickly to the point of, so we had campaigns with mom, family gathering and eating food, or we even had like an emoji pack that was launched, and we had 2 emojis for a guy and a girl dancing together. Even that was not allowed because it's too close. So it's been strict, but it's needed because, again, you don't know what your audience is going through. You have to really communicate in an empathetic way, and people who have done right, and Nike really does it right all the time. I think they're very good at this, but Coke as well, you know, just communicate and do things that matter, because that's what in the long term is going to help you as a company for your employees, because you're staying true to your values, but also with your consumers because they'll remember what you did with your money during times of crisis. I agree with you, Jean. So yeah. What else? Any other questions?
I have a question as far as, you know, as we all know, Zoom took off. I mean, the stock itself is just off the roof, and it's obviously one of the main platforms we're on it right now. But do you foresee like any other digital platforms or any other venues that are kind of right now might not necessarily known from the general audience, but could be like the way of communicating of tomorrow, based on the fact that now everything seems to be, at least until 2022, more digitally? Or
so Zoom, definitely, I invested and bought stocks right when COVID was happening. But I know in terms of reports, and Jean-Yves can confirm if you have anything like that. So a lot of our consumers are consuming TikTok as a new social media platform to they really spend, like, I'm forgetting how many hours a day on TikTok. So that's been a platform that we're starting to focus on in terms of reaching out to our audience. The other campaign we were developing today is around House Party. I don't know if you guys know about House Party. It's an app where originally you can play games as a group. And for some reason, it just has skyrocketed through COVID, not necessarily to play games, but just to chit chat with your family and friends. And so that's one of the platforms that's that's taken off amongst the Indian Americans. So now we have Diwali coming up, which is the Indian New Year, and the campaigns that we are developing are around how to have that atmosphere of Diwali through House Party and because again, people will not be necessarily celebrating as a community or going out, but doing it digitally. Same thing with TikTok. We have a hand sanitizer brand, and the peers, it's a soap, and so all those jingles or those 20 seconds, hey, wash your hands and all that, all those campaigns are the informative campaigns, and it says like, no matter what soap you use or what antibacterial you use, but hey, take 20 seconds to sing this song and then wash your hands, you know.
So I have a question for you about TikTok. You know, as you guys know, I'm in the real estate industry, and you know, clearly, social media has really exploded for our industry because everybody's looking, you know, for properties from their couch, right? They can't go. We in Colorado, and that's not representative of the whole country. We can just now start doing visits in person for properties, and up to now it was just virtual. And as you guys can imagine, it wasn't that easy for people to pick a property without being in it. So when it comes to TikTok, I mean, I hear there's millions of people on this particular platform. Is this like just a fluke, or is this here to stay? What's your experience, based on your experience? I mean, I haven't started investigating, but I'm wondering if I should.
I can talk from my experience, and then Jean-Yves can go.
Okay.
Is
this like reaching a particular group age, or?
Yes.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. So I am 40, not necessarily drawn towards TikTok. I have it because that's my work, and I'm trying to understand why people are doing this. But we've done market research in the past 40 days. And yes, the segment that's using it more, it's either a younger age or a lower income level. So that's what we have noticed. So depending on what type of real estate you do,
right.
might not be the right platform to get on.
How young, what's the group age? Do you have an idea? Or?
Very
young?
Yeah, I think so. I was going to say 14, but I don't know what you call it. Very young.
Yeah, we're talking about 14 to like teens to, you know, maybe young 20s. And then it's also worth noting that, you know, you have 15 seconds, right, to make your case. So selling a house in 15 seconds, someone to do something in 15 seconds, that's not, you know, you make a, you know, $500,000 investment in 15 seconds. Hopefully it gets you to jump on something and do it, but then, you know, the children aren't necessarily the recommenders. So it's a platform that's good for, you know, clothing, apparel, for things that are teens that, you know, the new PlayStation is coming out, right? You want to talk about it over there, right? And seconds, well, this is awesome, but it's not necessarily something that I would
Thank you guys.
you know, for this.
It's very talent oriented as well. A lot of people who are artists, instead of sending, you know, whatever, their tapes, and a lot of people are getting traction for their art through TikTok. And I was reading an article that said, like, you won't even need to have like Spotify, and all those will probably actually die, because TikTok will be the platform where you have everybody, all types of artists. I don't know.
It's not there yet.
No. I love Spotify. But yeah, and I have seen some trends in some ethnicities. Indians love TikTok, Brazilians love TikTok, Chinese not so much. They're still stuck to their WeChat. So
isn't it a Chinese app though?
Say that again?
Isn't TikTok a Chinese app originally?
Originally,
right? But and I don't know if that's true, but I had heard that there are a lot of kind of like how do you say you know, prejudice kind of like going on TikTok as well. Did you hear anything about that?
What sort of prejudice?
Because, for example, like certain races, actually, to come back to that subject, would not be shown, or there's a censorship based more on the ethnicities than really the talent of the video.
I have not gotten any feedback in that sense, but again, we asked only ethnic people, so maybe that's why we're kind of biased in the feedback we get as well.
But that's why it's to know that China doesn't necessarily like TikToks. It's a Chinese-born app.
Yeah, and again, it's the segmentation. But when you ask a Chinese American or Canadian, what are the top social media apps that you use, regardless of the age, TikTok might be one of them for the younger segment, but WeChat is always the first one.
Right. And Facebook.
Overall, if you're looking also at the usage of the apps, right? Facebook still has the biggest footprint, right? Out of all, by far, right? Out of all of the groups, you know, combined, followed by Instagram and Twitter. You know, these are really your big heavy hitters. And then by the time you actually just go a little bit younger, you get also down to a Snapchat. So there is definitely, you know, platforms are to be used for very specific reasons. LinkedIn is going to be more business. So is Twitter, actually, can be a little bit more business driven. And then you're going to be having things that are really focused on visual, right? Like Instagram.
Yep.
So the whole strategy of where you should be really means, you know, who's my target audience and what's my target audience consuming? And what is it that we're trying to convey?
Yeah, and what's the product? Like if it's real estate, you need those visuals. So
yes,
you can't necessarily be on a Twitter.
And some cultures are also extremely, you know, a lot more visual than others too. So, you know, that's what drives also, you know, certain adoptions.
Yeah.
That's more on Instagram or Facebook.
You know, I just got a phone call, so I missed probably something that was more addressed to me. Can I ask someone to repeat, please?
Well, we were talking about the platforms are more relevant depending on your target and the products that they consume. And I was just commenting on the fact that because you need the visual to sell your properties, Instagram being almost over Facebook, you know, the #1 platform. Yeah. Instagram is probably your platform. I don't use Instagram as much as a lot of people that I know. I use Facebook. I know the algorithms almost to a T. For Facebook, I don't know Instagram yet so well. I need to look into that. But I think for you, since pictures, because you could even post on Instagram and put it to your Facebook page.
Sure. Yeah, I use both. Not always the same message, because they're two different targets. Instagram is a little younger.
Yeah.
Definitely, I use both every day, more than once a day.
Okay.
Are you doing any ethnic targeting, Catherine? Because, you know, sometimes depending on certain cities, you may have some neighborhoods and there may be, you know, neighborhood.
Aurora would be the exception because there's 75% of the population that is non-American there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, all the targeting I'm doing is really not so much ethnic. I do have clients that are francophones. I would say 15 to 20% of my clients are francophones. Whether it doesn't matter the country, right?
Right.
But,
yeah, for us, so we have a few big builders in real estate as a client. not a few, one at a time. We don't do non-competes. But the interesting thing is that that's not the first thing that people think of when you think real estate. And I mentioned ethnic segmentation. It's like a house is a house, Sandrine, it doesn't matter. But what's important to see, and I was talking to a real estate person just day before yesterday, and he was telling, and I was asking how it's going, and now that these 6 months have passed, and he said, see, my target audience is very ethnic. So even though I want to diversify, like my Chinese Americans and Indian Americans are still buying the $1 million homes, which is great because that's where I make money. My Caucasians, be it Europeans or Americans, have slowed down, but anyway, their home average was around 350,000 anyway. So he's like, I'd rather invest and do my Facebook targeting or whatever he's doing in terms of marketing towards these two Asian ethnicities. And when you look in general in US, in real estate investment, Chinese Americans and Indian Americans over-index in terms of buying homes. And I think in terms of immigrants, there are more homes bought in the US by Chinese Americans than any other ethnicity. It used to be Canadians, and they surpassed that 5 years ago. In terms of the builder that we work with, they are in California, and California near the Silicon Valley. And again, had never thought of how to position themselves in terms of selling. So I'll give you an example. If your target is, say, Chinese Americans, it's important to know that they usually have multi-generational homes, families. So it's important for them to have homes that cater to, you know, that have the space, the separation, but also you have a big place to get together. The number of people in the house are bigger. So when you're even selling the house, if you can like sell that dream that, hey, here's the dining room, or even in terms of the marketing, then like we help them brainstorm in terms of the names of the community. So don't call it Renaissance, because that might not be as appealing for a Chinese American community, which is your core audience in that zip code and in terms of level of income. Same with Indian Americans. So all Indian parents come and visit during summer and take care of the grandchildren. The first priority when Indians go and look at homes is to have 1 bedroom and bathroom at the ground level, so that their old parents don't have to go up and down the whole day. So those are the little things that where Mikado comes in place and say, okay, these are the insights from our consumer. Let's make sure your marketing is targeted enough to hit everybody, but in a way that they understand what you're saying. And it could be the same house you're selling, but the way you present it, it's different. And we French have our own way, and we know what we want in a particular house as well. So real estate is very interesting.
Oh, and even from an ethnic and religious background as well, right? Depending on who you're selling to, you know, specific groups may require, for instance, to have 2 kitchens, right? Yeah. And so you have to be thinking about that, right, in terms of the resale and who you're going to and who might actually appreciate that as a feature and who might not. Correct.
And we even got, so the same builder was building, and so once we've been working with them for some years, they asked us if now they should build according to Feng Shui. And we were like, it can be an add-on. Now, I don't know how much investment goes into this, but even if it's built according to their normal layout, but if there are some things that are working according to Feng Shui, then, you know, make sure you communicate it.
And the same thing, again, going back to religion as well, right? Is there going to be a house of worship close by, you know, that ethnic group, you know, relates to or frequents?
Yeah.
Right? You know, it's one thing if it's a you know, Protestant church here. It starts to be a little you know, more difficult to find a lot of temples, Buddhist temples, or you know, different again, different houses of worship, you know,
Yeah.
for themselves.
And that's the reason why we have clusters then, because once you find the right elements, then, you know, everybody kind of follows and feels comfortable.
Right.
Perfect. Sandrine, did you have a chance to go through all your slides and all your presentation, or did you have a final word? Because I can see that it's already a few minutes after 11, so.
It actually went the way I think I wanted it to go, where it's more of a discussion. Didn't go through everything, but I think we talked about everything anyway. So it's all perfect. But again, I think as a company, we are trying to make sure our clients stay authentic to what they're doing and what they're saying, and they really understand who they are. And that's been, I don't know, again, if it's, you can relate, but as a company owner and as a person, you had this time to really introspect in like what your values are, what you stand for, what do you want to do, and it's your opportunity to really take it out and apply.
It's great to see that we have so many talents in the advertising world here in Denver. Who would have? Thank
Yes,
you.
when you met them.
Thank you, Sandrine, really.
You're welcome.
Your insights are a great value, I'm sure, not only for us, but for everybody who will see or who has seen and heard you. So thank you so much for your time today and a couple of weeks ago.